Need a little wine? Craving some tea? Well, you've come to the right place. This is a little wine and a whole lot of tea with Chasitie.
Welcome back. Well, today we will be talking about co-parenting. Welcome to Chasitie's class of we're going to pretend like we know what the fuck we're doing. You know, it's been two years. Almost 2.5, I think, since my divorce. And like I've said before, that co-parenting is literally, I think, one of the hardest things to navigate in my experience. I have had a lot of people who, you know, try to give you the advice. And I actually even took a 13-week parenting class at my parents' church. And it was actually really good. The church is called Rolling Hills. And so a lot of the churches, they do like this, they have like a grief counseling. They have a parent, like single and parenting is what it's called. And then they also have like a divorce. And I was going to do the divorce one, but honestly, I felt like a lot of my issues were not due to like the divorce. And I know that probably sounds a little weird, but I felt like I should do the single and parenting and then maybe get like a grip on how to navigate that. And I got some good like tips and tricks. And so it was faith-based. So some stuff, to be honest with you, like I do go to church. I'm not like super consistent with it. You know, I have my daughter every other weekend. And like she enjoys to go. So, and we kind of like flop where we'll go to my parents' church and then we'll go to like the church that we live close to, which it's called Church of the City. And I really love it. And it's so funny because like I tell my parents, you know, I really like both pastors, but my church, I prefer the music. It's so much better. And like every time I go, my mom's like, oh, like it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And I literally sit there and I'm like, ugh, I just want this to stop. Like, I don't know, like I don't know. It's just like not as good. And to me, like if you don't have me at the music, it's really hard for me to pay attention, but I don't really have that issue at their church. I just don't like the music. So anyway, while I was doing that class, I really was able to figure out how to kind of handle myself. I have a major issue of trying to control situations. And it's funny because my mom and I talk about this a lot. Like, where did that stem from? Because I wasn't really always like that. It got really bad when I moved. I've kind of chilled out a little bit. I still find myself like, I have to have a plan. Like, I don't like, even if it's like 6 months out or whatever, like and that actually used to piss my ex-husband off because he's very like last minute and I just can't handle it. Like, I don't care what the plan is. I just have to have a plan. And I don't know if that's like anxiety or what, or just like the unknown. Definitely something I should probably bring up to my therapist and find out what that is. But like I said, I have gotten better. So in that class, I definitely learned how to kind of take that control away. You definitely have to be flexible. I think that I am very flexible. We are finally getting to a place where we don't want to rip each other's heads off. And, you know, I just had a lot of things go on. If you listen to the last episode with my personal life, and there definitely will still be another update with that. And it's kind of crazy because I actually had to share all of that with my ex-husband. He knew nothing, very basic things. And so the other day, I actually had to tell him kind of everything that I had going on, because my biggest thing, and I don't know if any of you agree with this, but everything that happens in my environment affects our child. Everything that happens in his environment affects our child. And so I feel like as the parents, we both have the right to ask questions. Now, you have to be careful how you ask them, but if you feel like something's off, like in my opinion, you should be able to ask, like, hey, like, I'm kind of feeling uneasy about this. Like, is everything okay? And so we finally, like, with all the turmoil I've had, and like I said, it's not even done yet. You guys are going to shit yourself. Um, he finally, I feel like, was listening to me and hearing me and really taking in and trying to figure out like how we can make this easier. And I really, really hope that this was like we got over a hump and then now maybe we can be better. The problem with the two of us is like we're both very stubborn. I'm definitely way less stubborn with him than he is with me. So that's been a struggle, like navigating that to where I get to a point where I'm like, dude, I don't want to fight anymore. Like, I just want to agree with what we agree on with her. And like, I want you to be involved as much as you possibly can. You know, I came from a divorced family. And so I know what it feels like. And I don't, the difference is like my mom didn't have to share me and my brother because my dad was not around. And so she doesn't really like know how to like fully navigate that because she didn't have to. So I'm on like a totally different level. But I pretty much have her majority of the time. He has her every other weekend. He'll see her during the week. And so it's been like really hard to navigate that. I feel like we are kind of on a routine and that's been good. And of course, now the co-parenting is about to get a little bit more interesting because, yay for me, I get to meet his girlfriend, and my child is very emotional and she's very much a mommy's girl. She will literally tell me, I love you a million times within a minute. And so I'm kind of a little nervous about her emotional. I've also been trying to figure out how I'm going to navigate even my emotions, like with having like another female around her. And it's weird because like I don't feel jealousy. And I think that's where a lot of people have a lot of issues because it's like, oh my God, is my kid going to like that person more? And I don't know, maybe I'll feel a little bit like that. I don't know. As of right now, that's not really a concern for me. And like, I have heard all kinds of stories, and I actually know people who I feel like they just want to like sock it to their person. And I was like reading an article the other day, and like, I even had a friend one time who doesn't really know our situation and tried to tell me, above all things, you have to put your child first. And I was like, respectfully, shut the fuck up because you don't even know my situation. You have no idea what I put first and what I don't put first. But like for me, I 100% always put her first. And it's funny because my mom like will even tell me, I never expected you to be like so patient. And like it's funny though because I have my mom to like have my freak out moments. So instead of taking it out on my ex-husband, I will call a friend, like phone a friend, phone my mom, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I just need to freak the fuck out for a second and please bear with me. But like, if I don't get it out here, then I'm going to take it out on him. And I just don't want that because it just creates more animosity. And I just feel like, you know what, regardless of your situation, if the divorce was ugly, the divorce was not, whatever that looked like, if you have a shitty situation with like, even if you guys weren't married and you were boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, put your feelings aside. Like nobody gives a shit. You don't care how he feels. He doesn't care how you feel. So quit trying to go back and forth with each other because it doesn't work. And the thing is like kids feel everything. My child is like the biggest empath. And I try to explain to him because, also like men are men and they're like, oh no, kids don't have feelings, because they're so young. And I'm like, dude, she like feels everything. Just because you don't say mean things with your mouth does not mean she doesn't feel your energy. And so I remember she even told me, it was like a couple weeks ago, and she's like, Mommy, I don't think daddy likes you. And the way that I always approach things with her is I don't have big reactions. I sit there and I listen. And even if I'm like annoyed or irritated on the inside, like I said, I phone a friend or my mom and I will discuss it with them versus my 6-year-old. So be better, you guys, because I know there's probably a lot of you even listening who are like, oh shit, like I haven't done that. And so I just sit there and I ask her, like, oh, well, like, why do you think that? Because I want to understand also why she's feeling the way that she's feeling. Is it something I'm doing? Is it something that he's doing? Is it a combination? Like, how can I be better? And I have no control over him. So whenever things that she says to me, I always automatically go to him. Always. Like, and I just say, hey, I don't want to fight about it. I just want to express to you the conversation that we had. You don't need to say anything to her, but like, be better. Just like change your actions. This is how she's feeling and it should be important. And so she basically told me that first she said, I think. And then she said, actually, no, I know that daddy doesn't like you. And in my mind, I'm like, well, you're not wrong. And so I said, well, why do you feel that way? She's like, well, my brain tells me that. And I said, oh, well, does that hurt your feelings? Does it make you feel bad? Like I try to always see how she feels. So then like I can try to navigate it that way. And I've definitely taught her that your feelings matter. Always what you say matters. It is important and it is valid. And that was one of the biggest fights, even like when I was married, where I was like, regardless of whether you understand it, my feelings matter, her feelings matter, how you made us feel, even if that wasn't your intention. But the biggest thing that we can all do is like express. And I want my child to learn that it is okay to express how you feel at all times. Because as she gets older, she's going to have to do that. One of the biggest things that I've noticed, because, you know, I do hair and I have middle schoolers, I have elementary kids, I have high schoolers, and I love my middle schoolers and my high schoolers, you know, and it's so funny because some of the parents, like, the kids literally request for them to not be in the room. And I can talk to anybody. I can talk to a 6-year-old, I can talk to a 13-year-old, an 80-year-old, 20, 50, you name it. Like I will figure out what you want to talk about and then that's where we go. So my middle schoolers and my high schoolers always love it because I'm always like, so what's the tea? Tell me all the things. Or like I'll joke with them in their, you know, stupid Gen Z language that half of the time I don't even understand. And it's funny because I tried to ask one of them the other day. I was like, okay, how do you guys say like somebody's lame? Like, so he's a sophomore in high school and I love his mom and we're friends. And I was talking about like when we were growing up, how in high school we used to say like, oh, you're such a pussy. Like you're such a pussy. And I'm like, wait, what do kids say nowadays? Like, what do you say? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like nobody says anything. Like I know they have that word like sigma, like, and I'm like, that's supposed to be cool, right? Like that's like the cool thing. And he's like, yeah, kind of. But like couldn't tell me like what it meant to be like, you're being a little bitch, basically. And so it's just funny how things change. But I've just like noticed that a lot of them are very, most of them like have a hard time like communicating or like expressing how they feel or feeling confident in how they feel. And I don't know. I just like, I feel like at like 16, and I even told my mom this, like, that was like one of my, I think, most confident I've ever been, which is so crazy to say because I'm 38 and I've been through like a lot of things. And you would think like knowledge or things like as you get older, like it would bring you more confidence. And I'm like, nope, I'm fucking insecure. I have like the least amount of confidence I think I've ever had in my life. I mean, I'm starting to build that back. But I think like at 16, I was very much like, I expressed how I felt. Nobody could tell me shit. Like, but I was a good kid. Like, I just mean, like I felt how I felt and you weren't going to convince me otherwise. And like I still am kind of like that. But then I'm like, oh my God, did I upset them? And like back then, like I was just like, well, whatever, like I feel how I feel. And not that I was mean or rude about it, but I just was like confident in being able to stand up for myself. And I think I've struggled with that a little bit over the years. I'm starting to gain it back. And so it's like, you know, like I feel like a lot of the kids have like a really hard time. And like my daughter is also struggling with that. I feel like that's one thing that I want, like I try to work with her on, is like being confident in who she is and how she feels. And even sometimes she'll tell me stories, and even though like she told the story exactly how it happened and like she was there, she'll be like, right, mom, right? I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you think? And so I don't know. It is definitely like harder on kids to like co-parent and be in two different places and not really trying, like not really understanding. And me and her dad have two very different environments. He is very much a homebody. He is a very, I don't want to say like a super strict rule. I mean, he has his things, which is fine. And I've had to tell her, like, you know, daddy has his rules at his house, mommy has her rules at her house. And either way, you have to be respectful. And that is one thing I have to say. Like, I remember when she was in preschool and I got like the biggest compliment because I'm like, you know what? If I don't do anything right, at least my kid is fucking polite. And at 3 years old, I started her like, you say please, you say thank you say you're welcome, you say bless you say excuse me, like all those things. And I remember I picked her up, and she might have been 4 at this point. And the teacher said, you know what? I just have to tell you that like she is the only kid in my class that always has manners. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Cause like, I don't know, I'm probably fucking up everything else, but at least my kid says please and thank you. Cause you know, there's so many kids who don't even do that. So, you know, we've definitely have like very different parenting styles. And like, I had actually never heard of this before. Maybe some of you have, like, they call it like parallel parenting. And basically my understanding of it is like dad has his rules, mom has her rules, or mom and mom, dad and dad, whatever that looks like for you. But like basically both parents have separate, like their own rules, and then but they like can come together for the big stuff. And I feel like that's probably where we are. We're more parallel parenting. I don't really like love it, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I don't mind the like your rules at your house, my rules at my house. But I also feel like there are certain rules that should be. So like I even had this client that I knew and friend, like where if certain things like happen, like so for me, like me and my ex-husband, one of the things that we have discussed, because I am very much an anxiety ridden person, where like, or I don't even know, I guess maybe that could be considered anxiety. Like I'm constantly like thinking to the future, always. Like she's 6 and I'm like thinking about what's going to happen when she's 14, and I'm like, come on, it's ridiculous. But I just like to be prepared for everything. Okay. I basically was like, you know what? I want to be able, like, if something happens at your house, you come to me and tell me. Like, it shouldn't just be like he handles what goes on at his house and I handle what goes on my house. Because guess what? If she decides she's going to sneak out of the house at his house, you better believe that you're just going to be just in trouble at my house too, because that's some bullshit. You're not going to pull that. And so for me, like, I want us to get to a place where we can both trust each other in that and respect each other in certain parenting styles. And I think we're going to get there. She's so young. And I feel like we're on as long as the meeting with the girlfriend and that whole thing goes well, fingers frickin' crossed. I'm very nervous about the whole situation because I know that I am abrasive. I am who I am unapologetically. And I've even had to say it to him, like, if she doesn't like the way I handle things, that's a her problem. Sorry, not sorry. Um, I would not be disrespectful to her unless I feel like it's warranted. And until then, like, I'm cool. Like, I mean, I joke with him and I'm like, guess what? She's going to be my best friend. And that's just what's going to happen. I don't know if I truly feel that way, honestly. And maybe I just feel like that right now just because I'm like super jaded with people and I'm just like, fuck everybody. I don't even want like anybody new in my life at this point. Whether it's male, female, friends, relationship, whatever that looks like. I feel like it's hard um, to put in energy to people and then you just get disappointed. So, and I think really like deep down, like, do I really want to be best friends with my ex-husband's girlfriend? I don't know. Probably not. Um, but I do feel like we are on the right path. You know, the world is so hard as it is. So, like, for us parents who are, whether you are divorced, going through a divorce, um, not together, whatever, like, get over your shit. And the kids are the most important. Number one, like I told him, like I would love to have family dinners. I would love to be able to like, we went skating, like roller skating on Saturday. She's been doing, it's kind of cool. Like they've been doing roller skating for PE at school and she's been killing it. And so I'm like, hey, like, let's go to the roller rink. Holy shit. That, it looks very easy and I haven't done it in a very long time. My shins, you guys, were burning halfway around the rink. I'm like, wait, what? And it was so hard. And but it was fun. She had the best time and like things like that, like she had never been. And I would love to invite him and him actually want to go. Like I said, like I'm very much like, let's do things, let's go, let's experience. I'm very much an experienced person. He is not really, which is fine. To each his own, do your thing. That's one of like the biggest reasons why like we didn't work out because I didn't want to spend all my extra time in my four walls of my home. And that's okay. He prefers that and that's fine. And so but I hope like one day we could get to a place where we can coexist. I mean, I'm totally good. He actually gets more annoyed of me. I think I piss him off a lot of the times because I just like to joke and like poke fun and like if I feel like you're in a mode where like you don't want to talk to me, I'm gonna make you talk to me. I'm gonna make you like me and we're gonna like laugh and I might say some stupid shit to make you laugh, but like I think probably I need to change my approach with him so he doesn't get so agitated. But like I don't know. That's just like how I like to be. And so I'm hoping that we can get to a place and like I said, I feel like everything that I've just gone through, I think maybe we're like turning a little bit of a corner. I'm hoping so, but we'll see. Because the other shoe can always drop. But another thing that like I feel like other people have talked about are like these co-parenting calendars. And I tried to suggest us doing that, but it like didn't work so well because it's like, I only have one. For those of you that have two, three, four, five, I don't even know how you do it because can barely get myself together and her. But I just thought like they were the coolest thing. Like they were color coordinated. It synced up to like each other's phone. So if I put something in, then he gets it and whatever. And so for those of you who have never used it, I like highly recommend. I think I just like Googled co-parenting calendars. And then I think I first originally saw it on like one of the mom groups on Facebook. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I would totally like it would definitely keep me in check with things. So I highly recommend that. I know that um, there's a lot of people who struggle with communication and all of that. And so I've had to learn how to communicate. And I think the biggest thing why we all struggle with the communication with a co parent is because nobody's paying attention to how that other person communicates. And it's funny because me and my ex-husband, that's our biggest issue is we both feel like we're not hearing each other. And it's crazy because like I try to break things down where I'm like, okay, let me try this angle. Let me try this angle. And like, I feel like no matter what, he hears what he wants to hear, especially if he's in a mode with me. If he's mad at me in any way, shape, or form, then like, it doesn't matter how I communicate, it's not effective in any way. And so that becomes frustrating. I think that I now have gotten to a point where I just like say exactly how I feel because I told him, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. You're irritated with me either way, so I might as well just like speak exactly how I'm going to speak. I might as well just like go where I want to go with the conversation. And obviously, I am very respectful and I care about your feelings. But like I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. If this is how I feel, this is how I feel. And I feel like it's gone a little bit better. It just depends on the situation. We actually had a really good conversation the other day, and I felt like for the first time, like he was actually like listening to me. Um, where I'm like, I don't have the energy to fight with you anymore. And I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. Obviously, we still have to deal with each other and all that, but it's like, I'm not going to go and do this tit for tat type of bullshit. And, here's the facts. Here's what we need to talk about. Here's what we need to discuss. She is our main priority, and quit thinking that I'm trying to turn the conversation into something that it's not. I think that depending on how your relationship ended or like whatever that person's feelings is like, they almost project. And for me, I'm like, if I'm telling you I want you to live closer, it's not because I freaking want you. If I wanted you, I wouldn't have asked for a divorce. I think that we could be definitely really good friends. It's so funny because some people are like, oh my God, imagine if you guys got back together. And I'm like, he cannot even stand me. Like, truly. I'm like, at the very least, I hope we can be friends, but I don't even feel like this person likes to be around me. So like that, you guys, if that ever happened, like, I think you might be at the pearly gates because the world has ended. But I just I try to remain positive, and it's been a hard journey to get to where I'm at today, where I think I've finally just gotten to a point where I have let go of trying to control the situation because I can't. And you guys, you can't. You cannot control anything that happens. And you need to let go a little bit, and you need to allow that person. And I know there's a lot of you out there who like don't even want to allow the other parent to be a parent. And it's just not okay. I actually had to get in an argument with a friend of mine back home because he thought he was going to like say certain things that he didn't even know about the situation. And I said, I like, you don't get to tell me anything because you don't really even know. But I allow this person to be a parent, and they have to make their own choices. And I think for me, I was projecting onto my childhood stuff, like me not having my dad. And so I know what that feels like. I know what her potential feelings could be. if like there's any type of disconnect, so them moving further and like things like that. And so I wanted to avoid all that. So I think like I held on to everything so tight because I was like, I don't want her to feel the way that I feel. And so to me, I think like a lot of you guys who are going through those things is like sit back and think about, are you projecting your own fears onto this situation? Are you projecting your, things that happened to you in the past or whatever that looks like? Because all you're doing is creating chaos for your children. That's all you're doing. And like I said, life is already hard enough as it is. I mean, I have a friend, and to me, this was like, I don't know, I felt like both like how cute, but then also how sad. Her daughter is in, I think she's fifth grade, fourth or fifth grade. I can't fully remember. And they had a group at school, and they were called like the Banana Splits, or I don't know. It was something crazy like that because they were all kids whose parents were divorced. And it's like, oh, they're coming together into one, but it's like, but also like how sad. And basically they all sit there and talk about like, oh yeah, my mom and dad do this, my mom and dad do that, and blah blah blah. And it's never good things. Like the biggest thing I will have to say is he and I do not, now we don't talk badly about each other. Now his feelings towards me are very apparent. So that's why our daughter feels the way that she feels. Now, he says he's working on it. He says he's trying, whatever. I try to teach her, which, and some people agree with this and some people don't. I constantly tell her that we don't treat people like that. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a family member or a friend or whatever. I always teach her that we are kind to people and we're not freaking assholes. Because, once she gets older, I'll tell her, girl, eye for an eye, you do you, boo. But right now she's 6, so she needs to learn to like be nice. And then maybe you can tweak it a little bit as you get older, right? I guess that's just how I justify like my behavior sometimes towards other people. I'm like, you fucking deserved it. Don't treat me like that if you don't want it back, okay? But yeah, I do not talk bad about him because actually that day that she brought up like daddy doesn't like you, I like asked her, I'm like, well, wait, do you think that mommy doesn't like daddy? Because I wanted to see, is there anything, like I'm very aware and I wanted to see if there was things that I needed to change. And she was like, oh, no, 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 mommy. I know that you like daddy. And in my mind, I was like, well, sometimes, not a lot of the times when he's not nice, but okay. And so she has no bad feelings, and that's how it should be. Your kids should never know that you fucking despise your ex. And most of you probably do, and some of you probably don't. But either way, your children should never know. And that is like my biggest thing from her, that I'm like, I don't want her growing up. Like I said, I have clients who are like, oh my God, like my parents hated each other. Like it was awful. And they feel the stress of it. And they are now struggling with trying to have relationships because they're trying to undo the things that they saw or felt. And to me, it's just like, we can single-handedly fuck up our kids. And, I'm not saying that we have to be perfect, and because there is no such thing. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. There is not a book. There is not instructions on how we do it. But I think the biggest thing is like morals. Like we all have a certain type of moral compass. Now, some of us don't. One of them who doesn't was my ex-boyfriend. And I even told him that before. I was like, your moral compass is lacking. So unfortunately, like those type of people, I think lack a lot of boundaries, a lot of rule breaking, like things like that. Like you have to like give your kids some type of moral compass, stability, whatever. People always say like they should be involved in church, and not everybody believes in that. So I don't preach that. For me personally, I wanted her to, like, I went to a Christian school, kindergarten through second grade. I learned about it. My mom never like threw it at us. She never pushed us. It was kind of like, here's your introduction of it, and then like it's your relationship. And she's always prayed. She's always, had her own faith and her own relationship with God. And so she's never forced that on us. And I think that's a big mistake that parents make, is the more you force something, the more that they don't want to do it. So like, quit forcing things. Introduce it, start that, and then let them choose, let them decide. All you can do is teach them how to navigate. That was one thing in that parenting class that like I didn't love. They like talked about like when you reprimand or like teaching lessons or things like that. Like, I don't know, like if I said, let's just say, my child didn't want to like share her toy. Instead of like me, I would just tell her like, well, no, like, we say sharing is caring, or, we take turns. So like they get to play with the toy for a little bit, then you get to play with the toy for a little bit. So then you both get the opportunity to play, because it's the nice thing to do. It's kind. You don't want to not let somebody play with your toys. Like if you have them, like you want them, like, treat others how you want to be treated. I'm not saying that others are going to treat you nice, but it doesn't matter. Like you still have to treat others how you would want to be treated. And like in that class, it was like, go into this whole thing about, well, because Jesus would want you to do this and this. And like, I don't parent that way. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't come naturally. And it was so funny because I had a friend who said that she tried the like parenting like that, and to use like Jesus, and I don't know if she said Jesus or God. I can't remember which one she used. And her daughter's like 3 and was like, well, where is he? Why doesn't he come tell me? And it was just like, because kids, like, they're just like, well, what are you talking about? And so I was like, yeah, probably not the most ideal. I don't think it would really work all the time. And I think, like, I know me, if my mom tried to talk to me like that as like, middle school, elementary, whatever, I would totally do the eye roll, like, oh God, I don't even want to hear it. It just is like, there's people who talk like that and there's people who don't. So I think we have to be like really cautious, like in the ways that we want to parent. There was a couple other things that like I was reading like a couple articles the other day, and sticking to the parenting schedule, like always having a routine. That's my biggest thing. I feel like when we get off kilter, it totally creates like an issue. Totally creates an issue. And that's then like we fight, and I'm like, oh my God, but I'm always the one that like gives in, because I'm like, I just don't want to fight and I don't fucking care. So like whatever you, and which is not great. It hasn't been like that for a while. So like, that's kind of good. Some things that I heard of, like, another thing that people are talking about was like being empathetic, which I'm like, I'm sure we all like lack empathy for our ex, because it's hard. And like I said, like 9 times out of 10, the reason why co-parenting does not work is because one or both are creating a major issue. So I think the last thing that like really I want to leave you guys with is, no matter your situation and no matter what's happening, allow for forgiveness, allow for grace, for yourself and for others and for your partner or ex-partner and even your kids. Like, we're all human. We all have all these emotions. It's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving pieces. And I think that if we all just can figure out how to like self-heal also, I know there's self-help books and there's therapy and all these things that we are trying to also do, but it can be expensive. And I get it. Like, I'm now down to like once a month therapy. And it's hard sometimes, even that. But it really, really, really does help. And, I'm not saying that I don't want to drop kick my ex every now and then, because I totally feel that way. And I'm sure he feels that way about me too. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And we're all doing our best. So don't be too hard on yourself. Like I said, there's not an instruction book. There's not a guide to doing this. We all have to figure out what works for us. But the biggest thing is like learn how to self-regulate. Because if you don't figure out how to self-regulate, how can you teach your children how to self-regulate? And so with that, there are the ups and downs, and we all have them. Right now, I'm hoping that we're going to have the ups because I've had a shit ton of downs and I am over it. And it's not going to get any easier. Mine is still young, so I have plenty of years. So to all you parents, stay strong. You got this. We got this. Like I said, we're here. So I feel you, I see you, I am you, and that's the tea. Pinkies up, guys. Till next time.
Well, that's the tea, besties. Pinkies up!